Once again, my name is Okwelua Enos, and I'm a cloud security engineer at Ha-Shem Limited. So I'll be talking about Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. How can you secure your endpoint? What I mean by endpoint is your devices with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So our agenda, I'll be discussing Microsoft's approach to security. I'll be talking about what Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is, the capabilities of Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, and then attack surface reduction. And I'll be showing you a demo on Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So there are two kinds of big companies, those who have been hacked and those who don't know that they have been hacked. A very great quote from James Corning. A lot of companies today use low-end antiviruses in their environment, and these low-end antivirus are not able to detect or investigate properly threats effectively, especially unknown threats that don't have a signature. And the threats that are just emerging and coming out, they are not easily found out from the low-end antivirus solution. Every single day, there are new attacks we are seeing on vulnerable targets. And these attacks, the numbers are very scary. It takes like an enterprise more than 200 days to detect a security breach. And once you finally find it, it often takes a long time to even completely recover from that breach. Like takes up to 80 days to be able to recover from such breach. And attackers can wreak havoc on corporate networks, stealing their data, breaching privacy, destroying the trust of the customer. And it is taking up to $3 trillion impact of lost productivity and growth, and then 3.5 million average cost of data breaches. Attacks are becoming more and more sophisticated. These attacks are funded and highly skilled, almost impossible to detect them. Millions of them are released every single day. So the attackers are not waiting for you before they release different types of attack. If one is not working properly, they release another one just to find ways to gain access to your endpoint, your organization. Some of us might have heard about the Carbanak attack around 2013. A lot of banks and financial institutions were attacked by unknown groups of cyber criminals. And according to investigation, the amount of losses was up to $1 billion US dollars. So Carbanak is a remote backdoor attack that is designed for data infiltration and to provide remote access to infected machines. So once access is gained, the attacker performs a manual reconnaissance of the victim's network, which means that the attacker surveys the entire network of the victim. Once the attacker gains the result, he uses different lateral movement tools in order to gain access to the critical systems in the victim's infrastructure. So once the attacker successfully compromises the victim's network, they start targeting things like ATM, which is your automated teller machine, and financial accounts. And Microsoft and its team of cybersecurity specialists were able to identify these threats and also mitigate it through Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which was formerly called Microsoft Defender ATP. Protecting against attack is becoming more and more challenging than ever for organizations. There are not many security engineers or specialists out there, and there's a bigger attack surface. Data is not sitting in one place. Just as millions of attacks are being released every single day, the same goes for the amount of data that is being processed or created every single day. And Microsoft has made things easier for organizations by introducing a unique approach to securing organizations' data by providing several platforms to secure your identity, your devices, your apps and data, and your infrastructure. So Microsoft is concerned about every single platform it's not just they deal with things about identity. No. If you protect identity, what about the devices? What about the application? What about the entire infrastructure? So Microsoft has our best interest. So they provided us with different solutions to provide and to protect the identity, your devices, your apps and data, and your infrastructure. So here are some of the Microsoft security platforms. We have the advanced threat analytics, the cloud app security, we have Intune, we have Windows Server 2016, we have SQL Server 2016. Advanced threat analytics is a security solution that helps you to do behavioral analysis of your network and find out if there has been a attack or breach to the user's identity. And once it finds that out, what it does is that it monitors it and sends an alert to the administrator telling him that, okay, this is what has happened. The user that has been signing in from a particular system for 20 to 30 days is now signing in from Russia, and the user just signed in from Nigeria by 2:30, and the user is signing in to Russia by 2:45. We all know that that is very, very impossible. You can't fly to Russia in like 15 minutes. So that is what the tool does. We have Intune, which is for mobile device management. So you're not just protecting your user's identity, you want to protect the organization's data on the mobile devices. And this is very good that it does not care about the user's data. It doesn't even look at anything concerning the user's personal data. All it cares about is the organization's data. We have under Windows Trust Boot, Privileged Identity Management, Credential Guard, Microsoft Passport, Windows Hello, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. Under Microsoft Azure, we have Azure Active Directory, we have Azure Information Protection, which is to provide you with classification and labeling and protection of your data. We have under Office 365, Microsoft Defender for Office 365, which was actually called ATP for Office 365. So we have the anti-spam, we have the anti-malware, we have message encryption, we have data loss prevention, we have threat intelligence, and we have advanced security management. All these solutions are being provided from Microsoft to be able to secure your environment effectively. So which brings us to the topic, the main topic for today, which is Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which was formerly called Windows Defender for ATP. So we're going to be asking ourselves, what is Microsoft Defender for Endpoint? Microsoft Defender for Endpoint uses a combination of client technologies built into Windows 10, the newly introduced Windows 11, and also our robust cloud services. So Windows Defender, Microsoft Defender, permits me if you'll be hearing Windows Defender ATP. It's just that I'm used to the former name, and the new name hasn't quite stuck in my head. So the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint uses a combination of client technology built into Windows 10, the newly introduced Windows 11, and our robust cloud services. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint comprises of three parts. We have the clients, which gives us an agent that is built into the Windows OS. So if you're using Windows 10, you already know that you have the Windows Defender. That's the client. You have the Windows Defender that you get with your Windows 10 or the newly introduced Windows, which is Windows 11. So Windows Defender logs everything that happens on the client machine and sends it over to the cloud. We have the cloud analytics services, which uses huge dictionary of signals collected across Microsoft's ecosystem. So Microsoft collects signals from their customers, their enterprise cloud products, and their online assets. So it runs on big data, and also use these machine learning algorithms. Let's talk about capabilities of Microsoft Defender for Endpoints. So we have threats and vulnerability management. So what this means is that some of security solutions that are being provided today, you don't get to know where you are, your security posture, what are the security threats that have been found out in your organization. But with Microsoft Defender does what you call a scanning of your entire environment. So it scans the entire environment and it identifies threats, previously found threats, it identifies them. It also finds a way to remediate them. Now, it doesn't just discover these threats. It tells you where you are in terms of your security posture, where there is like a means that the attacker can gain access to. It tells you that. That is what it does with the threat and vulnerability management. It helps you to prioritize, discover, and find remediations of vulnerabilities or threats in your organization. It helps you to do what we call attack surface reduction, where it allows you to create policies that can help you to protect your endpoints, like applying application control policy. You want only this specific application to be able to send files or share files. You want to protect your network. You want to protect your web browser. You don't want this particular browser to be able to, you don't want your users to use this particular browser in your organization. You don't want them to go to this particular site. You want to block a specific site. You don't just stop there. What about USB management? You want to be able to say you don't want your users to use USB, because USB is also one of the fastest means where attackers, they put a threat, and then when you attach the USB, it immediately starts running a specific threat and then gains access to the organization. And you know that these threats now, they don't take longer time to scan your entire environment. They can take like 30 seconds or less than 30 seconds to actually gain visibility into your environment. They don't waste time. They already start attacking immediately. They gain access to your endpoints, and then they gain access to your entire environment. What about Bluetooth? Because we know that Bluetooth is one of the most unsecure means of transferring data or files. That way, attackers will gain access once your users are sending Bluetooth files to the endpoint. Maybe they want to share a specific file. That way, attackers will gain access to your organization. So attack surface reduction helps you to create policies to mitigate this and to prevent all this from happening. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is a next generation protection solution. What this means is that it protects you from threats that have not yet been discovered. You know, most of these antiviruses or security solutions are used to signature-based threats that they can identify with a specific name. But what Microsoft Defender for Endpoint does is that it helps to identify threats that have never even been discovered based on behavioral analysis, machine learning. So it uses machine learning to learn the behavior of these threats. Once it sees that this is not a usual activity that has been happening in your endpoint, on your endpoint, or in your environment, once it detects that this is unusual, it immediately tries to find remediation. It then sends an alert to the administrator that this is what has taken place, and the administrator can come and view and drill down to how this threat happened, what caused it, where the threat is coming from, things like that. That is what Microsoft Defender for Endpoint provides you with. We have the endpoint detection and response. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, it's a very fast tool. It is quick to respond. It doesn't waste time to first detect, and then after detecting, it's still trying to find out how to provide remediation for the threat. If it's trying to find out how to provide remediation for threat, the threat would have attacked almost every single endpoint in less than an hour in your environment. And now, after it has done that, there's nothing you can do but to try and look for recovery of your files. But with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, you don't need to do that. Once immediately detected, it's already applying remediation. I'm going to be showing you in the demo how that looks, and you see how long, how short it takes for it to already apply remediation. It doesn't take time. So that is what the endpoint detection and response does. Also, the automated investigation and remediation. So it immediately automatically applies remediation, not waiting for the admin to come back and start clicking, okay, apply remediation or solve this issue or remove the particular threats. It doesn't wait for that. Once it detects it, because it's very, very smart and it uses machine learning, once it detects it, immediately it starts applying remediation to any threat that's been discovered. And we have Microsoft threat experts that are looking at how to improve the Microsoft Defender tool every single day, and how to let it enable it to learn more and more emerging threats. So those are the capabilities of Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. I'll be talking about attack surface reduction. So like I mentioned, attack surface reduction is like a capability of Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And attack surface reduction, apart from Microsoft Defender for Endpoint detecting threats and applying remediation, you also want to mitigate this threat. You want to be proactive. You want to prevent these threats from happening. You want to be sure that, okay, I've protected my endpoint successfully. That is where attack surface reduction comes in place. So you can put in some policies and deploy to your environment to prevent these threats. So some of this policy is the hardware-based isolation policy that helps you to maintain the integrity of the system. So any change, what I mean by integrity, the hardware integrity, is that there is no change that is going to be made. You know, some users tend to put on developers option. Maybe they have been able to get how to enable developers option from the system, and then they come and start modifying it, applying their codes to the system. So this protects your users or the people that have enabled developers option to be. Hello? Okay, so this enables them to not have the access of tampering with the integrity of the system. So once you enable this policy, your users won't be able to do anything like that. We have application control. You want to be able to specify the browser or the specific application that can have access to your company's data. You want to be able to say this is the application that can share files. You want to be able to do that. Allowed applications. You can use Microsoft Defender for Endpoint to do that. What about control folder access? There are some folders, there are some very, very sensitive folders or sensitive files that you don't want your just anybody to have access to. You don't want all your users to have access. You just want a specific user to have access to those folders. So with Microsoft Defender using attack surface reduction rules, you can create controlled folder access, which will help you to prevent malicious or suspicious apps from making changes to those folders, or users from making changes to those folders. We have the network protection. You want to be able to specify the particular websites that your users will have access to, or the specific website that they will be able to share, or the browser that they will be able to have access to. Exploit protection, you want to prevent them from attackers from exploiting the operating systems or applications in your organization. Attack surface reduction rules, which include your USB and blocking USB access and so on. You can create some of these rules using Microsoft Defender for endpoints. So this is what basically Microsoft Defender for Endpoint does. Detects advanced attacks and remediates breaches immediately. It's built into your Windows 10 and your newly brought about Windows, which is Windows 11. It does endpoint behavioral sensor, behavioral analysis, which is powered by cloud machine learning analysis, Microsoft Cloud Machine Learning. And then it is also improved by threat hunters, threat researchers from Microsoft to find out ways that you can improve your security, find out ways to help to mitigate threats, find out ways to help to remediate threats. So that is what Microsoft Defender for Endpoint entails. So now I'll be talking about the Windows 10 defense stack. So this is not just limited to Windows 10. Like I have been repeating, it's also for the Windows 11, which just came out. So this is Microsoft's Windows 10 defense stack, Microsoft Windows 10 defense approach. We have different solutions that can help to defend your Windows 10, that can help to defend your endpoints. We have the device protection. Under device protection, we have device health attestation, device guard, device control, security policies. All these, some of these policies you can create on Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. Under identity protection, we have built-in 2FA. Some of us that might have been using MFA in our environment. This allows us to provide a second level of authentication. So we're not limited to signing with just our username and password. We need to provide a second level of authentication, which requires us to put a PIN so that because anybody, any attacker, no matter how long your password is, there will still be a way for them to gain access to this password. But now if they gain access to this password, how do you want to also make sure they don't go in fully? That is why you provide a second level of authentication, which is 2FA. We have account lockdown. We have credential guard, Microsoft Passport. We have Windows Hello, which is also a very good solution. That you don't need to provide your password, you can provide PIN, and we know PIN is not saved to your Active Directory just like your password, which is actually saved to your Active Directory. So your PIN is just peculiar, or is just for your device alone, only your device. So even if you are signing with another device will not have the same PIN as your previous device. If that device prompts you for PIN, it's not going to take the previous PIN on your previous device. So that is how Windows Hello works. And you can also make use of biometrics if you want to make life easier for your users. We have information protection, Windows information protection. We have conditional access. Windows information protection protects you from accidental leakage of data. We have device protection and drive encryption. You want to use the BitLocker technology to encrypt your devices. We also have conditional access. What conditional access helps you to do is to allow you to provide certain conditions that your users must meet before they have access to a specific resource in your environment. We have, under threat resistance, smart screen, app locker. We have device guard, Windows Defender application guard. That is for the pre-breach. That is what you apply before any threat has come in place. Now, if there is any threat that has come in place, which is the post-breach, you now apply the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. You can also apply the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, so you don't get me wrong. You can also apply it before there is any breach so that you can prevent the breach itself. So, but if you did not have it installed at all, it has not been working in your environment, you don't have anything called Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, then after you have been breached, you should introduce it in your environment, which detects breaches, detects threats and vulnerability, and immediately responds to them. Let's talk about the license requirement for those of us that might be interested in purchasing the Microsoft Defender. So you can, when you purchase Microsoft 365 E5 or A5, you get the Microsoft Defender for Endpoints. Microsoft 365 E3 with Microsoft 365 E5 security add-on, A3 with A5 security add-on. If you have Windows 10 Enterprise E5, you get the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. Windows 11 Enterprise E5 or A5, Enterprise Mobility Plus Security E5 or A5. So for customers that might have been using organizations that have been using EMS E5, they have Microsoft Defender for Endpoint if they're using A5. The Office 365 E5 or A5. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint standalone license, you can purchase that. The Microsoft Defender for Identity, the Microsoft Cloud App Security, Defender for Office 365. All these licenses come with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. Okay, so I'm going to be moving on to the demo, or I'm going to be showing you how an attack takes place, what happens when it takes place, how Microsoft Defender for Endpoint mitigates this attack, and how you can investigate this attack, how you can put in place things that can prevent these attacks. So I'm going to be showing you that in my demo. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to share my virtual machine.
It's fine, thank you.
Okay. Please tell me when you can see my virtual machine.
Okay, yes, I can now.
Okay, thank you very much. So, in order to access the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, you need to go to securitycenter.microsoft.com. It's either you sign up for a trial license from there, or if you already have the license, you just move on from there and then gain access to all the features. Now, this is a virtual machine. It's a device that I've added. I've not yet onboarded it. So I also want us to know that before you can apply what they call it, before you can apply some level of protection, which is your attack surface reduction rule, you need to first onboard your devices. And onboarding your devices has been made very easy now. You can either use group policy to onboard devices if you have a central means of deployment. You can use group policy, you can use System Center Configuration Manager. You can also use Microsoft Intune. You can use that to onboard your devices. Or you can use a local script, which is you just download the onboarding script and then install it on the device. That's if you don't have multiple devices in your organization. Okay, so this is a device now. I want to also mention something. I talked about threat and vulnerability management, which tells you where you are in terms of your security and all that. So it gives you your secure score. This is my organization right now. My score for secure score for device is 49%. I've not applied anything on application, anything to protect my application. I've only applied some level of security on operating systems to protect the operating systems in my environment, to protect my network, to protect the user accounts that are signing into those devices, and security control. But for application, I have not done anything on it. So you get this secure score. Now you can also see there is an exposure score. It tells you that if is a low score, it's 0 to 28. Mine is actually very low because it's 18 over 100. So this is my level of exposure. It tells me that. Now it also gives me security recommendation. So it's telling me that I want to I should block off all Office applications from creating child processes. So if I select this, it now explains, it tells me how to go about that. And it also gives me a list of exposed devices. These devices, it means that these are the devices that have Office application running child processes on, and that this way attackers can gain access to those child processes. So if I want to block those child processes, I'll just click on this, so I can go to attack surface reduction and block it. It's also telling me, it's just not telling me how to block this or block that. It also tells me that I need to upgrade my Windows Server to 2022, which is the latest and most secured version of operating system right now. So now I want to also show you that with Microsoft Defender, for organizations that are just trying it for the first time, so you have the option of evaluation and tutorial, whereby Microsoft gives you an evaluation lab where you can create machines and test threats and see how these threats are mitigated, how fast these threats are mitigated. Now on my device here, I have a threat that I have downloaded, which is a PowerShell script. Which is a PowerShell script. I think I need to run it again. So I'll open PowerShell admin. Sorry. I'll open PowerShell admin and then go to simulations and tutorials. Come to tutorials and copy this threats. Paste it and run it. Once that has finished running, I get an incident alert, or the admin is sent alert immediately. So if I go to incidents, I would see it here, which is the suspicious PowerShell injection behavior. So if you go to incidents, you can drill down to what has happened. This was earlier. So if I click on this, it tells me the step that has been taken. So you can see, first of all, that it was a script that I copied from the web. After copying the script from the web, I come to PowerShell and run this script. Now, if I open this, you're supposed to see the content of the script. Yes. So we can see that it also shows us the content of the script. So for devices that you might be working remotely, because that's what is currently happening during this pandemic. A lot of organizations are working remotely. Now we're working remotely. How do you identify this threat? How do you investigate it without going to the device and clicking on it and saying, okay, or asking the user, what exactly did you run? You don't need to go through that stress. All you need to come and do is to go to incidents find out the user, go to the user, or you would have been sent an alert already. Then you drill down and find out what happened, which is telling us that this user, a PowerShell script with this contents, was run on the user's device. And this is actually is like an injection to PowerShell. It doesn't detect this thing. It has been resolved. Now I'm going to show you. If I come to automatic investigation, if you come to automatic investigation, you can see threats that have been remediated immediately and the devices that it was remediated on. This is another threat that has been run earlier, that has been detected in the user's device. Can you see, like I mentioned, that the threats don't even take time? They don't use several hours before they actually achieve what they want to achieve. Immediately they enter, they start doing what they want to do. See, it took 37 seconds to complete. Only 37 seconds. In that 37 seconds, you would have gained access to the organization's information and gotten a level of information, sensitive information, that is not supposed to get. So we can see an investigation graph whereby the test machine is connecting to Microsoft Defender. Microsoft Defender is collecting the logs from the test machine. So it analyzes the logs and it tells you that this is what the particular threats has affected. 1,351 files, 134 processes, 281 services, 401 drivers, 10 IP addresses, 273 persistent methods. Now, if you drill down, you can also see the alerts that took place. You can see the status. You can come and see whether it has been remediated. Status is saying resolved because this threat has been deleted, removed, and blocked from the device. So this particular hack tool was prevented. Mimikatz is not just one, was also prevented, because you know that these threats also come with different applications. So it's like threats inside threats, inside threats, inside threats. So as it is being deployed, it's installing one after the other. Now it has blocked every single thing that came with that threat. And it prevented every single harm that came with it. You can find out the device that was affected, which is just this test machine. Luckily, because it already found it immediately. If it took time, you might not have found it. And Microsoft Defender for Endpoint doesn't take time. It does work immediately. You can now see an evidence telling you this is the evidence of the tool. This is the tool. Oh, sorry. It even tells you the location where the tool decides to store itself. It tells you all that. You can also go further and do threat hunting, but in order to do advanced threat hunting, you need to have a basic knowledge of the code, advanced threat hunting code. You need to have learned it. You need to know the programming language to be able to use advanced threat hunting, which is a basic for security operators or security administrators. So your security administrators must already know how to do that. But that doesn't mean that you have to learn that before you can actually administer Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. You don't need to learn that before you can administer it. It is very user-friendly. You can find out things on your own. You don't even really need to use a guide to go through things. So if you come to settings here, so if you scroll down, you would see the onboarding and offboarding. So I want to onboard this system. It's a very simple process. Just come to onboarding. You want to run a detection test if there is any, if it has already been onboarded before and it was onboarded properly, you can run this. Just going to run this on my PowerShell. I've actually not onboarded this device before. So once you are done running the detection test, you can either wait for a few minutes so that the results will come out, or you immediately go and find a deployment method to deploy the agent, the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint agent, to onboard your device. So here you can choose the operating system. Now, most of us might be worried that is it only limited to Windows operating system? No, it's not. You can onboard your Windows 7, SP1, 8.1, onboard Windows 10. You can onboard Mac OS, Linux OS, iOS, and even your Android devices. You can onboard all of them. So now I don't have like I don't have multiple devices in my environment that I want to use a central means of deployment. But if I do want to use that, you can see the central means that I mentioned: group policy, system center configuration manager, Intune, or if you have VDI onboarding script for non-persistent system. So I'm going to be using a local script, which I'll just download the package. So you know that the process is very seamless. I'll extract this. Once I'm done, I just run this. And click on yes. So it's telling you that the script is running with sufficient privileges and all. If you don't want to, like I said, organization, if you don't want to go through this stress, just go to Microsoft Intune and then create the onboarding process on Microsoft Intune. There's a guide for that. Just go there. Once you create the onboarding process, you don't need to worry about anything, as long as your devices already have been enrolled to Microsoft Intune. So if your devices are not enrolled to Microsoft Intune, they would not pick it up. So if your devices are enrolled to Microsoft Intune, all you need to do is just go and create the enrollment process and the onboarding process, and it will deploy to everybody in your environment. Once it does that, it automatically enrolls. So there are other settings that you can enable right here. So you can specify who you want to be getting email notifications. So for administrators, that you want them to be able to know what is happening in real time, getting email notification. But you don't have to do it for every single time they should be getting email notification. You can say for a specific period of time. It depends on what you want as an organization. So you create a notification rule that will be sending it, including the organization name, organization specific portal link, and be sending alerts. If it is high alerts you want, only high alerts you want them to be sending, you can select that. Then you specify the recipients that you want to be getting these alerts. You can configure advanced features like automated investigation. So if you don't want it to be automatically investigating, you can turn this off. But who wants to turn off automatic investigation? So you leave this turned off. You want live response, so immediately it is responding. Once it detects it in seconds, it is already responding. You want live response for servers. You want live response for unsigned script execution. You want to enable EDRAL in block mode. You want to automatically resolve alerts. You want to allow or block files. Things like that. Or you want to even enable tamper protection. Some of the security tools that we're using today have tamper protection. You enable because you don't want your users to have the opportunity to go and turn off the antivirus when it is affecting them, or the specific security solution when it's affecting them, or they are not comfortable with it. And if they turn that off, that means there's no protection. So tamper protection allows you to prevent that. No user will be able to do anything unless they have the specific maybe code that is given to them to disable the tamper protection. But apart from that, they won't be able to do that. So you can configure other things here depending on what you want as an organization. Web filtering. You can also integrate it with your SIEM solution. Any SIEM solution you have, you want to integrate it so that you can be getting the logs and alerts from there. You can come here and then connect it. Okay, so the last thing I'll be showing you is the attack surface reduction. Okay. So if you come to Endpoint Security here, you have to go to endpoint.microsoft.com. So you don't, you can't actually create the rules on the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint portal. So you have, because it's integrated with several security solutions. So one thing about Microsoft Cloud Solution is that you don't have to worry about it being integrated with your Office 365, your Microsoft, or the other cloud solution. It is automatically integrated with them. You don't have to worry about installing this to integrate with them or anything like that. They are all integrated together. They are all connected together. Connected with your Active Directory, your Cloud App Security is connected. And then you come to Endpoint Security here. You see attack surface reduction. So time will not permit me to actually test the policies, but I'll be showing you how to create at least one policy. So you come here, click on attack surface reduction, create policy, drop down, click on the Windows 10 and later. You specify the attack surface reduction rule that you want to create. You have device control, exploit control, web control, application control, attack surface reduction rule. So if I choose device control, I click on create. I give it a name. So I can specify different settings. Do you want to allow hardware device installation by device identifier? So you only want installation based on the device, a known device. So if you say that, then you specify the allowed lists. You want to block hardware device installation by device identifier. You want to allow hardware device installation by set or class. Things like this, you can set it up. You want to block direct memory access. You want to block removable device, which is your USB. You want to block USB connection. You want to not block, so for organizations that don't want to block the USB from connecting, but want to block write access. Write access means that they will only be able to read the content of the USB and they won't be able to copy to the USB folder or the USB drive, I mean. So you can select that. You want to block Bluetooth connection. You want to block Bluetooth discoverability. You don't want the devices to be able to discover Bluetooth. Preparing, advertising, things like that. Just depends on what you want as an individual or as an organization. So this is left for your security administrators if they want to create attack surface reduction rules. So that brings me to the end of my session. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Well, thank you so much, Apollo. That was a really, really interesting one, particularly where you talked about the statistics you shared with us on the two kind of big companies, those who have been hacked and those who don't even know they have been hacked. I mean, those are really interesting numbers, and which basically will make any organization want to be more conscious about, paying more attention to their cybersecurity solutions, and as well, looking at how sophisticated attacks are, how skilled these people are, how well funded they are, and looking at the capabilities of Microsoft Defender, which you done a demo for us. I mean, it just makes it really, really interesting, and to show that, well, it's just a good thing to know that despite the challenges that might surround organizations without a secure their data, without a secure their endpoint users and all of those, there are solutions that can keep us secure from every of these breaches, and it's good to know that. So anyways, we are taking questions now, so should in case there are anyone with questions from what was shared, maybe from the demo, you have a question about that, please feel free to ask your question now. And while you're doing that, you can also consider the fact that if you're looking to probably integrate or probably adopt any of the solution into your organization, of course, you can send the mail to marketing@hashemlimited.com. We'll be very, very happy to look into it together with you and to help you implement this solution or integrate it basically into your system. So you would also find that the evaluation form already has been shared to the chat window. So please kindly fill the evaluation form as well to better let us have a better understanding of your experience during this webinar. All right, so still waiting. Any questions? Any questions? You can still use the chat window as well. We'll read it on from here, and Apollo will be right here to give us an answer to whatever questions it is we might have. So just some few minutes left to conclude. So please feel free to ask questions. Okay, so it's appearing like we probably do not have any question. Well, I wouldn't, I wouldn't have expected any less because I mean she did a great job, running us through the capabilities of Microsoft Defender for threat and vulnerability management, attack surface reduction, next generation protection, endpoint detection and response, automated investigation and remediation, and Microsoft threat experts. I mean, these are all beautiful capabilities, and you can just be rest assured that you are protecting whatever is valuable to you. When you subscribe to such solutions. So if you are beginning to consider this, I'd say it's something you should really put your attention to, and just send a mail to marketing@hashemlimited.com. We have security experts, I mean seasoned professionals here who would be right here to provide you with counseling or advice, on what security is more like the best fit for what you want to do. Also, you want to consider having a cybersecurity training, for your users as well. It's always good when we stay abreast of threats hackers might want to use to penetrate our organizations. It's just good to stay up to date, not just for ourselves alone, because we are not the only one at risk, but our users as well. Everyone needs to be trained on these on cybersecurity. So you would even observe, if you follow us on all our social media platforms, we occasionally run a cyber awareness campaign. So you want to be sure as well to follow us on all our social media platforms, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, and very importantly as well, stay tuned with our series, our webinars, which we have on Tuesdays and on Thursdays, because definitely we keep sharing new updates. We keep sharing seasoned information on how you can stay abreast of whatever security issues you might have. And of course, on Thursdays during the series, we look at generally how technology is improving businesses, looking at automation, looking at digital transformation and all of those as well. So you want to make sure that there are certain information you don't lose sight of. And of course, Mr. Michael Adelaja already shared the social media links to us on the chat window. Please ensure we follow for LinkedIn, for Facebook, for Instagram, and very importantly for YouTube as well. As we had earlier shared, that we have several free resources and several contents for us to consume, on our media platforms. And so still at this point, there are still no questions. And to that, I want to thank everyone for joining us on this call. I want to thank our beautiful presenter here today, our senior engineer for cloud security at Ha-Shem. She did a very wonderful job. And I'm sure we are all impressed with that. And of course, to thank everyone who joined this call, those who had to listen through, who had to take notes and all of those. Thank you very much for joining us. And of course, you'll be joining us again on Thursday, I trust that. And then the next coming Tuesday as well, we'll continue from just right where we stopped from today. So thank you very much. And then till some other time on Tuesday. Let's have a lovely evening. Bye, everyone.